Hello, my name is Patricia Stroh and I'm the curator at the Beethoven Center. So I just want to give you a brief overview of the different historical keyboards we have here in our collection. We are open to the public every day except for Sunday, so we welcome you to come by and you'll be able to get a fuller tour of the instruments we have here. So I'm going to start with a little instrument over here. It's called the clavichord. This is typical of a 18th century German instrument. This is a reproduction, so we do allow people to play it. One of the big differences between the clavichord and some of the other instruments I'll be showing you is the way the sound is created. When you press down on a key, there's a tangent that comes up and comes in contact with the string. And it stays in contact with the string, so you can affect a little bit of a vibrato when you play, but you'll notice that it's very quiet. It's as loud as I can play on this instrument. So I'm going to move now over to our harpsichord, which is also a modern reproduction of an early type keyboard instrument. This harpsichord has two manuals which operate two different sets of strings inside the instrument. The sound is created when the strings are plucked, so it's very different from the clavichord and the forte piano. When you press down on a key, a metal or plastic plectrum will pluck the string, so it gives it that very loud, very resonant, sort of metallic sound. So I'll play just a little bit of a prelude by Bach so you can get the full effect of the sound. Now you can make that louder by combining the two sets of strings. You can also use stops to change the tone. So for example, if I press on this stop here, I'll get more of a guitar or a lute-like sound. So that is our harpsichord. Now I'll move on to the earliest example of a forte piano that we have here. And this is typical of the type of instrument that Mozart and Haydn would have played and Beethoven would have played when he was young. This instrument is also a modern reproduction, so we do allow people to play it. It doesn't have a full keyboard, there's 66 keys on this instrument. It also only has two strings per key, so it's not as loud as some of the later instruments that we'll be showing you. It doesn't have pedals, but instead it has levers underneath the keyboard. So if you want to take dampers off your strings so your sound will sustain, what you do is you press up with your right knee, and that takes the damper rail off the strings so your sound will sustain. Then on the left there's a device called a moderator or a mute, and what that does is it places felt in between the hammer and the string to give it a very muted sound. So I'll play just the beginning of Beethoven's famous Moonlight Sonata using both of those levers so you can get an idea of the quality of the sound. just the very beginning of that very beautiful sonata. But you can see that this is kind of a difficult thing to hold those levers up through the whole piece. So when the piano builders started putting in pedals rather than knee levers, that was a much better device for controlling the dampers and doing the other special sound effects on the instrument. So this is a reproduction of a late 18th century Viennese forte piano. I'm going to move now to an original instrument from Beethoven's time. This was built in 1823 in London by the Broadwood firm. And it's particularly special to us because Beethoven had an instrument almost identical to this one. His was built in 1817, also by the Broadwood firm. So this instrument we don't allow people to play, but we usually have docents here when we have visitors who can demonstrate it for you. I'll show you some of the basic differences. You'll see that there are a lot more keys on the keyboard. Now we have a lot more than 66 keys, still not our full 88 keys available. And the keys have now changed to materials that they're using. The main keys are now ivory, whereas they were using this black ebony wood for the earlier instruments. This instrument also has two pedals, which now we don't need to use the knee levers, we can use our feet. And this damper pedal is split into two, which means that if you want to raise the dampers off the lower end of the keyboard, you can use the left side, and then up above, the dampers remain down. Or you can do it the opposite way. If you want to raise the dampers up on the upper register, use the right side of the pedal, bring it down. In the lower register, the dampers are still down. It also has a wonderful pedal called the una corda pedal that shifts the keyboard over so that your hammers are striking fewer than the 3 strings that are available. Normally when I press down on a key, the hammer comes up and strikes 3 strings at the same time. They should be tuned exactly the same. If I use the left pedal, it's shifting the keyboard over so I'm only striking 2 or maybe just 1 string. Right, so there's a little stopper in the far right side of the keyboard that will affect it so we only are striking 2 strings. So I'm going to play a little bit showing the effect with 2 strings so you can hear the difference in the sound. And finally, we'll move to the latest instrument that we have. This is a Viennese forte piano built in 1827 by the Jackisch firm. And this is an actual instrument from Beethoven's time. It's the last year of his life. This one is special because it has all these different pedals. So I'll just quickly tell you what the different pedals do. We have the one on the far left that does move the keyboard over, so you can play on just 1 string. We have 2 different moderators. One places 1 layer felt in between the hammer and the string, the other does 2. So you get more of a harpsichord-like sound when you do that. We also have a bassoon pedal that places paper, basically, up against the lower register, which gives it a buzzy sound, like a bassoon. The regular damper pedal is in the middle, and then finally we have a Turkish pedal which adds percussion effects to the instrument. So if you're playing a march and wanted to add the drum and the bells, just press hard down on that far right pedal and you get and that is the Turkish pedal. Finally, I should say that we do demonstrations of these instruments every Wednesday from 2 to 2:30 by our docent, Richard Sogg. So we welcome you to just stop by and hear a little bit more.